Hello, everyone.
Hi, Devin.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Great.
Good. It's good to see you.
I'm so glad we're getting our chance to finally get this rolling. I'm
I
excited.
know.
Such a big team. This is so exciting.
Yeah, we sent it out to our VPs and our leadership team and some advisors across campus, deans, and so on. So we're going to have a good crowd here to see you do your thing.
Love that. And we got it recorded too, so if anyone is busy, I'm sure as the holidays are nearing, people are, frantically getting work done and don't blame you at all. So if anyone can't make it, we'll have the recording available to share out with everybody.
Great.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll give everyone another minute or so to jump in, but I'm so glad everyone's here. While you're just hanging out in this room while we wait, if you want to like drop your role on campus into the chat, I'd love to get familiarize myself, maybe give you some more relevant examples as we're going through today. Thanks, everyone. This is super helpful. Michael, you were not lying. This is quite the crew. I love this. I'm
Yeah.
gonna say, this is my biggest demo. So you guys are like, I feel like I'm like, putting on quite a show for you. So this is exciting. I appreciate this. Okay, so I'm seeing kind of a mixed bunch of folks from all different parts of the campus, so this is great. Perfect. All right, well, I'm sure folks, if they continue to join in, they'll drop in and we'll keep it moving. But for right now, I did start recording. So, like I said, if anyone hasn't been able to join, they're not able to come today, not a problem at all. Provide you with the recording post demo today. You can share it out to whomever you choose. But for those of you who are here already, my name is Devin Rossi Ford. I am the launch consultant that will be working with you all throughout this process. Super excited to work with you all. I am a Philadelphia girl, so we might have some views that differ in some areas, but overall, we're all in the same goal here, and that's to get you moving towards a fully implemented Navigate 360. I'll be working alongside Jason Allen, your strategic leader. And so, just for some general context, before coming to EAB, I've been at EAB for over 4 years, and I worked directly on the campus side before as a Navigate 360 user. So I get both perspectives, what it's like to manage, the implementation side and make sure you feel trained and ready to utilize the platform, but also what it looks like to use the platform day in and day out to support the students. So that dual experience kind of shapes how I approach these demos and conversations, and really might change how I do things in particular with just how I approach some certain examples and things of that nature. Today's goal is just give you a really high level overview of the Navigate 360 platform, what it looks like, what it can do, how it aligns with the goals you've identified really early in this process around, strengthening your early alert process, expanding faculty participation, and then just supporting your advising structure and how you support your students. At EIU. So think of this more so as like an introduction to what's possible. And then we'll focus with the smaller team on, how the platform will be configured and the workflow details in future sessions. So if we get into some questions there today, I promise I'm not ignoring them because they aren't great questions, but more so this is really high level, and we'll kind of dig deeper into those areas later. If you have any questions throughout this, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm joined by Ben, who's also here in the call. Ben is part of our launch team at EAB, so he can also answer in the chat. And if I see them, I will try to answer them live as well. If for some reason we don't get to everything, I'll make sure I capture it all so we don't lose it, and I'll get back to you with some more answers. Uh, with that being said, let's get started. I'm going to pull up the site and give you a look at our demo site. I am going to turn my camera off just because I get a little freezy when I share my screen, and I'd hate for you all to miss any important details. Right. Okay. So if my screen is showing for you all, you should be seeing my friend Jack here. Jack is an advisor at Woodley University, and so this is our demo site. And so just before we really dig deep into the demo, I want to give a few notes. Um, the information and access that you'll see today are specific to this sandbox environment and, in theory, to Jack's role on his Woodley University campus. And so, in your live environment, what each person will see is going to be dependent on, permissions and their assigned roles on campus. We'll configure those pieces in upcoming sessions to reflect the specific security and expectations of access on your current campus. We try our best to, mirror what you currently expect based off of, security protocols as well as just your general roles and permissions. So you'll see that today as there's going to be a general access for Jack, but that may change in how you see it when you're actually live in your own site in the future. In terms of some terminology, you'll see me using some EAB terminology today. And if for any time you are not familiar with it or you're confused by the concept of it, I will absolutely be happy to clarify. One of the biggest terms I'm going to use throughout our call today is care units. And so when I refer to care units, I'm referring to any group on campus that's providing direct support to students. So, for example, if we're thinking about your campus, thinking about, academic advising or your transitional center or, referral partners like financial aid or the bursar's office, counseling, each care unit is its own dependency and will have its own services, locations, appointment types that, we'll configure in the future to mirror your structure. But like I said, if I use a term that you're unfamiliar with, obviously feel free to, raise your hand, give me a shout, and I'm happy to give some context to what that looks like in EAB world. But well, like you see here, this is the staff homepage. What you're looking at right now is Jack's view if he were to have logged in. Jack is an advisor, but also plays a role of a faculty member on campus too. And so one of the first things I really like to highlight is this role toggle up here. This allows anyone who serves in multiple capacities on campus, like a faculty member who also advises, to, seamlessly switch between the views without logging in and out, really simplifying that experience for folks who wear multiple hats, which I'm sure is very common. And so if Jack had active courses happening during the semester, he'd be able to see the courses as well as his assigned students within those courses on his professor panel. But right now, his semester is mainly focused on being an advisor. And so within his staff side of the portal, he's able to see his assigned students as well as the tabs that are relevant to his role as an advisor. And so we're going to start in the availability tab today. And this is really what you can do in the platform. It's the foundation of how students are going to schedule with your team. So in future working sessions, we're really going to collaborate on some of these definitive pieces, but I want to show you what it looks like quickly to just, walk through your availability as a staff member. And so you'll note that these are all individual availability points that were set in this platform by Jack. And so when he was building that out, he was able to go through here and select his availability based off of his own decisions, how he wants to split up his days, and how long he wants to leave that availability for, right? And so this could be something, we're right around the end of the semester here, and we're, planning for next semester. We're starting to think about what it looks like in the spring or even next fall. If the term is in here based off of your SIS or banner, for example, you'll start to note that you can even set up upcoming availability for the next semester, the next term. So you're already ahead of the game. You already know what your schedule is going to look like. And so when you're setting these availabilities up, you'll be able to select not only the meeting type of availability, so if you want it to be specifically appointments where students have to sign up to come in, or you want it to offer it as a drop-in where students know you're available to drop in, you can select that. You don't have to pick one, you could pick a variety, and then you could select the mode that you would like that to be in, right? If you are someone who works on campus every single day and it's always going to be an in-person meeting, you can select that. If you are someone who works in person, but you serve with students who are, sometimes virtual as well, you can select a variety of modes of meeting types. This is designated during configuration conversations, and so we can, specify based off of unit what type of meetings are happening or available. And then, like I mentioned, those care units, right? And so in this sense, we are seeing Jack come in as an advisor in this situation, and he could select the location and all of the pieces that are necessary to really setting up a really clear understanding for a student who's signing up for one of these sessions, right? And so beyond those broader care unit configurations, you'll also note that you're able to add individual details to each availability block, like things like where to meet and what students should bring, right? I don't know if students have changed much since my days on campus as an advisor, but I often found it was quite amazing how they needed a little reminder, to, bring your laptop, um, to bring your syllabus to a syllabus meeting. It is always great to be able to kind of have that little bit of special instruction, especially if you're someone who maybe is going from office to office. You may want to just remind students, hey, I'm going to be in room 304 on my Mondays, and rather than just saying what center you're in. So this is a really great tool, and these individual customizations are for the specific user. And so you're able to really own that and make it best for how you conduct your day-to-day work. And so you'll note Jack's got a ton of availability. He's got this really mapped out in the best way that he chooses to have it. But some of the things that I really like to point out here while we're on this page are the personal availability link here, which you can choose to or to not include an availability into that link. And so what that link does is it acts as your personal, like easily shareable link to your schedule. And so think about examples when, you're trying to meet with a student and they are just coming back and forth. You're trying to schedule over and over again, and you're just taking email after email of them saying, oh no, I can't meet that day. This is going to save you so much time by being able to copy this link for the students and share it to them. You can make it a QR code. You can attach it to your syllabi so that they have it available, but it allows students to directly access your calendar and your availability types that you've deemed were supposed to be included in your personal availability link. And so you'll note sometimes it's not something you want to include in your personal link, but if you choose to have it in there, it will be available for students to sign up directly through that link, making it super easy for them to access you. And kind of minimizing that melt of self advocacy for students if it feels too hard to schedule with you. And then additionally, some of those time saving and boundary setting places I really like to highlight are the target hours. And so target hours really help to protect your time during busy seasons. Something that comes in handy, especially, during registration, new student orientation, as you're nearing graduation times, if you're someone who's heavily involved in that process, you may not have as much meeting availability, or you may need to allocate more time to some other components of your role. So you can top out how many hours of meetings you can dedicate for that week. And this is something you can consistently update and control on your own. allowing you to make sure that, okay, I've hit the 10 hours that I believe I'm capable of committing to student meetings this week, and the remainder of my time will then be blocked off. Um, and to kind of go off of that blocking your calendar component, one of the greatest tools that is connected to the Navigate 360 platform is that two-way calendar sync. And so, with your calendar software, whether that's Google or Outlook, we have the ability to sync your calendars for staff users utilizing the platform, so that any appointments created in Navigate will directly appear on your everyday calendar and vice versa. So if you were to block off a busy block for, say focus time or even lunch, but that so happened to fall in the availability you've added here in Navigate, it will eliminate those scheduling openings so students cannot double book you. So same thing if you do your staff internal meetings through your calendar, your home calendar, it would take that time out so that students could not book during that time and you could focus on your appointments that you've already gone through. Any questions here before I move on to the next steps? Okay, awesome. So, when we've already set that availability in and students begin to schedule us, what you'll see is that students' appointments will begin appearing on your appointment tab. And so Laura here is the student who has set up an appointment, and this is really a great location for, advisors and faculty to get a really quick snapshot of who they're going to be meeting with next. And so, an advisor can log in and spend their first 5-10 minutes of their day taking a look at their appointments tab. And being able to see that each appointment tile is going to include, things like the student's name, the meeting type, that it's going to be in person, where that meeting will take place at, right? And so you're able to get that context and build your day and start preparing yourself. You'll also be able to note that students can provide comments when they're scheduling, and we can even collect information based off of pre-appointment questions. And so from here, you can, directly navigate into the student's profile and get even more details. And this is really where Navigate starts to pull everything together and make your life so much easier. And so when we are taking a look anything on this page, any blue hyperlink is going to be able to pull you to a different part of the platform, right? And so what you're seeing here is Laura's student profile. And this is a student who set up a meeting with you and is now ready to chat, but you want to get some really quick details before they come in for their conversation. And so what we see here at the top, this is what we call our 30-second gut check. So it's a quick overview of key details like academic progress, categories, all of this pulls directly from Banner. So it's really ensuring that the data is always aligned with your institutional systems of record. And so for advisors in, for example, the transitional center, working with, first year students or transfer students, this snapshot's really going to help quickly establish context, especially when supporting students who are, still exploring or transitioning majors. The student profile is really going to be the best place to get that information. You'll be able to note that things like tags and categories are stored on the student profile. But beyond that, there's other tabs up here that I really think guide these types of conversations. And so when I was an advisor, I spent a lot of time exploring things like their history tab, which is fueled, directly from the types of appointments that the student is having, as well as other tools on the platform like cases. And so through the history tab, you'll see a record of appointments, any appointments the student has had, any cases that have been submitted for the student, any notes that have been added. It's a really transparent view that keeps everyone aligned on the student story. And you'll also notice that it includes historical notes. So if you've previously captured notes or comments in another system, those can be imported here so that there's no context lost as you transition into Navigate, allowing that continuity to really strengthen collaboration across your care units and just get some early buy-in. Everyone is going to be working from that same complete picture of the student. Any questions here? Awesome. So I mentioned a little bit about, being able to see with the meetings and things of that nature that students are going through. But another piece that might drive some conversations is the courses tab. And so you'll be able to easily access not only their current courses. So if Laura was enrolled in a current course, you'd note that here, but you'd also be able to see their past coursework as well as their grades and enrollment details. And so for advisors, this makes it super simple to see that academic patterns that may need attention or celebrate wins with students, without having to toggle through a variety of systems, making it really easy to access that information so you can spend, that really important time that you have with your students, actually talking about critical information rather than fact finding. And so while we're in the student profile, I like to point out some pieces over here on the right-hand side of the screen. So these are quick action tools that I think are worth pointing out. The first is reporting on an appointment. So this is used to document, ad hoc appointments that weren't necessarily scheduled in advance. For example, I'm sure this happens to quite a few folks. The students, drop by unexpectedly, and they want to come in. They haven't set up an appointment, but you do have a moment to chat with them. This would be a great tool to use to kind of document those interactions. You're able to input the same information that you would within your appointments tab, which I'll show you in just a moment. But once you have captured that information in here, you're able to submit it and it would automatically populate into the history tab. And so the information you're collecting is based off of the care unit selected. And so in this case, we could look at an academic advising care unit is having a quick conversation with Laura, and they've discussed things like majors and coursework is like there's too much coursework and time management. And so these are some quick notes that you can input to a student's profile and quickly go through and answer some of these questions. And once that's added to the report, once you've added that to the report, you can see that immediately coming through for the student's profile and allowing them to really get a better depiction of other advisors and other folks on campus to get a better depiction of what that student is going through and what their conversations look like. And so that is a piece that you could do through this side panel, as well as just adding a note. And so I think the note is slightly different. Think of it more so as like a post-it note, right? Student, drops some quick context, like you're having a conversation with Laura and she mentions that she's really interested in this NASA internship that she saw on Instagram, and she just is really excited by it. That small note may not warrant a full appointment summary, but it could probably provide some valuable insight into the student's goals, potentially their engagement into certain programs on campus. And so you could add that to the student's profile and share that information, which would once again become available in their history tab. And so those are two big pieces for tracking general context of conversations, but a really big piece that I think falls to the forefront, especially in early buy-in for the Navigate360 platform when it's coming to campus, is the alerts conversation. And so when you're having a conversation which you would designate as maybe flagging an area of concern, you would be able to use the issue and alert. And so, for instance, if you met with a student who mentioned potentially withdrawing, you could raise the concern of considering withdrawal, right? In this demo environment, that alert automatically opens a case and assigns it to its applicable staff. You can select multiple alert types, and they will all conduct their own down funnel performance. So considering withdrawal will open a case and assign it to a staff member, while if you are alerting that a student has consistently late assignments, you'll note that their student's just going to receive an email saying, that they've been alerted that they're having a lot of late assignments. And so we can configure those pieces to match your current workflows. Any questions here? All right, awesome. And I know this is a really big piece for a lot of really early buy-in for the campus. It's a great way to make sure that students feel supported and that you're able to track the types of areas that consistently bring forward some concern. One of the pieces that I really like to highlight when it comes to cases is how we interpret case management and the best ways to really push forward case management. And so we lean upon the tools in the Navigate platform for case management through the case management tab. This is going to be really integral in helping make sure that staff feel like they are being provided with all the details necessary to make sure we're following through on those alerts. And so when a case or alert is created, you'll be able to see within the cases tab here on the left, you can go through and select any that are open. You could look at the cases that have been closed. You can look through care units, whether it's for a specific student, so you can search for your students here. If you want to look at cases that have been opened by yourself or from another faculty or staff member. You could even look if something is assigned to just you or completely unassigned, and then even going down to seeing the different alert types. You could even run a report to see the different cases that have been open between a certain time frame, as well as the owners of the case. And so this allows you to kind of keep a really clean record and understand what is currently open as well as what you've seen come through historically. It allows you to get a really good understanding of what it looks like to manage a case. And so, for example, if Jack wanted to see the cases that were assigned to him, that he is still has open, he could take a look and he's narrowed down that there are cases for a variety of students, and he wants to take a look and see what the recent details are. And so he can either send a message to the student to just check in on that student and see if they still needed some support or if they've been able to follow through on a conversation they've had. But you could also go in and manage the case and comment to the folks who are part of that case, right? And so all of the folks who are assigned to that case and say, have we checked in with the student? Has the student completed their referral form? It just allows to make sure that we're closing the loops and, transparently coordinating across the different care networks. Any questions?
Uh, yeah, I have one. I'm sorry, I just turning my camera and mic back on.
You're okay.
So just so because it sounds like it's going to get more involved as we go along, so I just want to make sure I understand the basics. So students uh, get a case assigned to them if a particular alert has been uh, given. So is a case then a particular student with a particular alert reason given by a particular advisor? And the reason I ask is I'm wondering if a student meets with several people and different people put slightly differently coded alerts on their record, will that result in several cases, perhaps related cases, being assigned for a particular student?
That's a great question. So, the alert types are something that we'll configure with your team based off of a lot of the time, we'll suggest based off of best practices, verbiage that is used internally. But we will designate specific alert types. Sometimes it can be an alert that is for something to the extent of medical issues or even a referral. So if students are often coming into conversations in advising sessions and they mention, I just have not figured out FAFSA, and it happens quite often, right? That's a common alert. We may recommend having that as the alert type. And so if the same issue or conversation is coming up across a variety of conversations, then yeah, there's going to be the potential for duplicate alert types. The good thing about it is we can evaluate that once they're in the system because they're going to be available and viewable from all folks who are assigned the alert. And so in this case, the financial aid office would receive that email saying, okay, Laura has mentioned financial aid support needed, right? Um, but we're able to configure the alert types so that they are reflective of what you would deem on campus as typical alerts that come in. And so you wouldn't necessarily be custom writing them each time. So there's not going to be the potential for, a self-titled alert per se. But more so, you will potentially see the potential of duplicate alerts coming in for the same reason for a student, especially in situations where maybe a student is missing an excessive amount of coursework, but they're missing that coursework or classes in all of their classes. If in an ideal world, the actual best case scenario is that all faculty members are leaning into using this platform, and so we are seeing more excessive absences coming in, so that we know, okay, this isn't just a singular course issue, but rather a widespread issue for the student, and that allows us to not only create the alert and track it, but allows us to see in that student's profile that they're missing courses for all of their classes and really allow for us to be more intentional and proactive in supporting that student.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Just a,
Yeah.
a follow-up. When it comes to the notes, then the notes are purely individual, and you can't stop me from writing anything I like in the notes, right? Hopefully within reason. But the alerts are going to be coded according to 10 or 20 or however many categories we think, when I say we, I mean Danny and Michael probably, reasonable. And then I guess the other question was just about the assignment of these. Is this automatic? So if a financial aid alert is mentioned, will that flow automatically to someone with financial aid responsibility, or is that something that's done by a particular individual, either the person making the alert or someone reviewing it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's actually configured. It's something that we work with your team. So we basically will go through a process of designing the pathways, the ideal pathways for these alerts to be, proactively utilized. And so in the example that you're having a conversation with a student and they mention that they're interested in tutoring, right? We can even allow for it to select a specific course and even notify the designated designated tutor. But what we can do is it will, send an email or an alert to the designated recipient of tutoring referrals, right? And so that could be a tutoring at eiu.edu, whatever that may be, right? And so that can send a trigger to that email saying this student has been referred to tutoring, and they can do with what they wish with that outreach. But it would also create an alert in this system so that it could be tracked through the cases as well. And so if there's a case attached to it, it'll be able to be tracked. But the configurations decided during the build out of different alert types is going to decide who gets that outreach. There will not be a requirement of any manual allocation of these alerts. But in the case that you want to manually add an assignee to these, so if you know that, for example, Jack is the advisor to Laura, but works heavily with Dahlia in this case. Jack went in and selected to assign Dahlia to this case as well because he knows Dahlia is a huge advocate for the student and meets with her frequently, right? And so you can add in folks who, based off their roles and permissions, to be supporters and assigned to the case as well to support a case. But it doesn't automatically do that in these special circumstances. It will only do it based off of its configured assignment.
Thanks
I
very
always
much.
found that. Yeah, no problem. I always found that one particularly helpful in cases where, you're dealing with early alert students, especially in maybe in athletics. If they have, a athletics coach that really leans into supporting them, that might be a great place to just tag them in and let them know, okay, I'm going to handle the alert, but I want you to know this alert is existing. We'll have you on as an assignee to kind of help manage this and help manage that conversation with the student as well. Any other alerts, any other questions about alerts or cases? I know it's a really big topic for a lot of our partners early in the conversation.
Devin, I would just add
Yeah,
to as we're thinking about the alerts and you're kind of learning more about it, we'll go through tiering out and sort of thinking about what like Devin said, what the response plan to all of the alerts is. And there's a number of different automations that we can do. So you could say that a student that gets the referral to financial aid, they may automatically be able to receive an appointment campaign or an appointment invitation from the financial aid office in lieu of creating a case and having the case go to that. So there's a number of different things that we can do that will kind of figure out what's going to be best suited for your campus.
perfect. Jason, you read my mind. So we wanted to point out a few other pieces of the site that I think will be really exciting for folks. So whether you are someone who just has a very, I'm very type A, so I like this kind of stuff, but maybe you're more working in like institutional research, and these are the types of areas that are going to get you really excited. And so leaning into that reporting and automation side, that's two areas that can really deliver the fastest wins. And so reporting gives you visibility into a variety of different areas of your student engagement, advisor engagement, follow-up actions, and trends. And so you'll be able to utilize the platform to create reports and run automations that allow for you to consistently see the same report each week. So, for example, a lot of the time that I spent on campus, I worked with Pell eligible students and kind of designed this same automation in that sense. And I constantly was taking a look and making sure that I was reaching out to those Pell eligible students to remind them, hey, here's some sessions that are coming up that you would be really great to access, right? And so this automation is set to send an email to students who are brought into the system with the category of Pell eligible. So if you store in Banner a specific demographic key or something to that nature, maybe you tag all transfer students with transfer, and you wanted to run an automation or a report that, tracks um, emails and sends messages to students who are considered transfer students when they're brought into campus population, just to welcome them and let them know the different transfer resources. These are really great tools to, make sure that you're leaning into the platform and saving as much time as possible, really helping scale proactive outreach without increasing your workload per se. Um, the reports, on the other hand, really give you that visibility, like I said, into student engagement. You could see the different appointment feedback metrics, the responses that are coming in from appointments, or if there are, how many open appointment summaries there are, if folks are completing them and really leaning into that engagement of the product. Or even just looking at the appointment volume for things like the transitional center or maybe financial aid, getting some ideas of where the ebbs and flows of resources may be throughout a semester. And so it really does give you a better bird's eye view of what things look like on campus, giving you the chance to really lean into those pieces of information and use them to your advantage, the deeper you get into utilizing the platform. And so if you're someone like me who's constantly looking at those same pieces over and over again, or doing the same structure of your day pretty typically, you're going to really lean into something like the dashboard. And so the dashboard is once again going to be user based and configured. And so each user is going to have the opportunity to set their own layout and choose how it can support their day-to-day workflows. And so for Jack here, his day-to-day workflow is really student-centered. He's not necessarily leaning into as much data on the day-to-day, but he really wants to better understand how many of the students he's met with so far, what his assigned students are doing. This allows for him to see, an activity feed of every student that's assigned to him and the things that they're doing. They've made an appointment. A case was closed for one of his students. An alert was opened. Being able to see all of those pieces on his own dashboard allows him to get quick access to the things that are most relevant to him. Once again, saving that time where he could be spending it with students instead of, having to spend copious amounts of time fact finding and getting a better understanding through a variety of color coded Excel sheets. That was the bane of my existence as an advisor, was an Excel sheet. And so this really sets you up for success, saving you a lot of time, being able to lean on the data that's being collected and stored within Navigate360, as well as the data from your from Banner that is being pulled in as well. And so you can even see things like those appointment summaries that are pending. Because he's meeting so frequently with students, he might want to be able to keep tabs of, how many of his appointment summaries he still needs to submit, or the ones that are being submitted on behalf of his students. And so this is all configured based off of each person's preference and their access. And so you could add things like a weekly report or upcoming meetings, just being able to really design it so that it makes the most sense for your day-to-day workload and takes off some of that extra administrative tasks. Any questions here? All right. So I want to show one more quick thing that I think is really important and exciting to use. One of the big pieces when it comes to, staff utilization and faculty utilization is really going to be things like progress reports. And so within the platform, users will be able to set up progress reports based off of their permissions that allows us to quickly collect data for the ongoing semester for things like sending out an early semester progress report to deem if students have purchased their materials for the course, if they are understanding the coursework, showing up to courses on time, getting a better understanding if students are, starting to have some of those characteristics that would deem them as at risk early into the semester so that we can provide some strategic interventions to best drive the outcomes that your institution wants. So obviously we've talked quite a bit in the past. You've mentioned to our team having that first to second year retention rate rising, right? And so you can set progress reports to be sent out to better understand how your first year students are acclimating to their courses and better be able to support those students earlier into the semester rather than letting them fall behind or having them have to withdraw late into the semester. You can track progress through progress reports provided to the instructors and faculty that allow them to indicate whether they think a student will be able to succeed in the course. Additionally, things like travel letters, which are huge, especially when it comes to off-campus activities. I know you're all big into baseball, so I think about the athletes quite a bit. And I think about when students are off campus, it allows travel letters will allow the students who are being impacted by missing courses or things of that nature to automatically send out emails to the faculty and staff who are supporting these students in academic locations, allows them to know that the student will be missing the course for the dates that they'll be out based off of their game schedule or things of that nature. Same thing for students who may be off campus for, leadership opportunities if they're spending some time and maybe at a convention or a symposium of sorts. This allows for you to easily process these types of travel letters, and it will store within that student's history tab as well, just so that everybody involved in the student's academic experience is privy to all of the pieces of their ins and outs of campus. All right. I've gone through quite a bit overview of what we see users finding in the platform, but I'm happy to answer some questions, circle back to anything that may be helpful for you to get a bit of a deeper dive into, since we've got a little bit of time left.
So a question just about the queries and the sort of ability to draw together different cases.
Yeah.
When we have classes, particular classes that are problematic, we've done investigations of, incomplete or DNF classes that where students have more difficulties. Often we're doing that work after the fact. Are queries going to be possible to sort of group together by, they're in a particular class or even a particular section of a class to say, all right, we're seeing a lot of students in this class having trouble. Not that we want to blame particular faculty members or a particular subject, but I mean, I'm thinking in terms of putting the data into action before the student gets the F or the D or whatever.
Yep. So when you're submitting your progress reports, it would track based off of, it would be classified based off of the course, rather than just an overarching, the student is struggling with their courses, you don't have the context of where it's coming from. So it could be sent to all the faculty members that that student's being taught by, and they could reflect based off of their specific course.
Right.
And I think what would be really beneficial for folks in that that area, if you're noting that there are a lot of students struggling in that area, is you can lean into those progress report feedback and take advantage of some of our conversations, like our campaigns, or even creating like a overarching outreach to students. So if you wanted to, you could take a look with using our tool, like through advanced search. You could take a look at the students who are in a course, right? And you can even narrow down the students who are in a course in that particular semester. If variety of those students are, struggling, you can search based off of that course and then send them all a message saying, hey, tutoring is going to be available for this course at X time. Here's the information for it. That's a really great way to utilize this tool in the platform, as well as just getting a better understanding of that list. So if you're a dean of a specific school, and you're noting that a course in your school has a lot of students who are being marked at risk, you could even create a saved search of that course, the students in that course, and be able to have that consistently something you're taking a look at, seeing if there's cases opening for those students, if they are having alerts entered for not attending class or having an excessive amount of missed coursework. You're able to utilize the search, the advanced search, to create a repeatable and replicatable search of that specific filter. So if you wanted to say, for example, look at the students who are in death and taxes, and you're constantly seeing them miss classwork, or that they're being reported as at risk early in the semester, that may be something you want to set an alert for and save it to, your dashboard. So you're easily able to access it at a finger's reach.
Devin, I wondered if you could just, since we have some time, can you just show off a little more of the dashboard, but also just some of the analytics types of things that staff members can do? A little more than just these reports and kind of pulling out some minutia, but anything that has to do with, any reporting or anything like that that they'll be able to pull.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the big things that I think is beneficial for folks is just to be able to, you'll be able to save this layout and change its settings. But if you want to see more of the reporting that you can pull together, so through our reporting tab, as it pulls up, I'll give you a little context. So through our reporting tab, there's going to be the standard reports, making it really easy, you know. So if folks are not super familiar with, you know, coming in and kind of creating their own report type or pulling together their specific components, you can lean upon these preset report types. And so for example, if you were someone who is working in, you know, an intervention space, right? We could take a look and pull in that alerts report. And so once you click on that alerts report, it's going to allocate things that you can make sure that it's an alert comment was an alert reason was X reason. You can select as many reasons as you want, right? So any alert that is for course related issues, you can pull that out and run that report, and you could even save it as a saved report. So that's how you would pull that into your uh dashboard, right? And so that's a great way to be able to use the pre-written different report types. But additionally, if you wanted to create your own report based off of your own criteria that you have in mind, you can go through and create those reports and set up those automations as well, right? And so being able to create an automation through here, you'll be able to schedule how often it's pulling that information in. And so one of the biggest things I like to point out really is that if you had students who were being tagged in your system as a transfer student, right? You could have them be the criteria. So anybody in the system as a transfer student, um, you want to make sure that you are adding them to an appointment campaign, right? And that campaign can be geared towards transfer students who need to meet with their transfer coordinator, right? And so this report that you're running, it will automatically run at your own automated schedule, whatever you deem as your preference, to send an appointment campaign to those transfer students that, hey, you haven't met with your transfer coordinator. Make sure you set up an appointment, and you can nudge students to participate in that, you know, that campaign to utilize those services. And so once you create that automation in that campaign, you can use your reporting to see, okay, out of the 100 transfer students that are here right now, only 75 have had their appointments. And so you could check that data as well. Ben is one who uses the reporting features a lot, and he can really share some more too. So I'll let Ben kind of grab some time here and share some more options of how student faculty and staff utilize those reports as well.
Yeah, sure. Hey, everyone. Nice to meet you all. Um, I know, Devin, actually, can you go back to the dashboard a little bit? So I thought Devin did a really great job setting this up here, and I just want to double down kind of on what Devin said here is like these custom dashboards, I really think of them as being like your kind of like your launching pad, right? So like when I'm like an advisor, a student success leader, someone who maybe has access to all of this data across, let's say, three other systems here, we can use Navigate, specifically those reports like Devin was talking about, to build you these dashboards, right? This is like kind of how I envision that this is the place where I get to read the room kind of even before I need to respond to anything, right? So like you can see here on these like assigned students, right? You see that name Nathan, right? Nathan keeps popping up. This tells me that Nathan might be one of the students that I want to follow up with, right? So I really do like to emphasize these dashboards here. And, you know, Devin will really talk with you all in implementation as well. When we think about the permissions to be able to run these reports here, I challenge you to think about how do we get advisors access to these types of reports, right? Is this the type of data and information that is going to take you to the next level here? So I really love these dashboards here. Devin, do you mind going back into the reports though? Yeah. And then again, just doubling kind of down what Devin said is, you know, the saved reports here. So really thinking about the time, right? One of the things, you know, that I hope you took away from Devin's presentation was just like where are those opportunities for us to be able to focus on the things that really matter, right? Because I know that probably for so many of you, you wear a lot of different hats, you're pulled in a lot of different directions here. So thinking about things such as like those saved reports, like what is the report that I keep having to run myself or keep having to go back to, being able to do this here. Devin kind of highlighted those report automations, right? So being able to say, if these were manual tasks that I often do, or I think that I might want to send a particular student this type of follow-up, right? Maybe that type of student is someone like Nathan. How can I automate that workflow here that allows me to have more time to have that face-to-face interaction with Nathan here? And then we might touched on it a little bit too, but actually, Michael, I think another really powerful tool here, and Devin talked about progress reports, but really just thinking about like how we think of campaigns, right? So when we think of the dashboards, when we think of the reports, and when we think of campaigns, what we're really talking about here is scale, right? We're really thinking about what are the different ways that we can communicate with students, right? And I actually really think about these, and you can see how they're on these two panes here as like student campaigns versus staff campaigns, right? So the student campaigns, if you notice, those are actually all campaigns that are targeted for the student, right? Those are where the student needs to take action on something. Where then, if you think about it on the right hand side of the screen, you've got those staff campaigns, right? Progress reports, enrollment census. Um, Devin talked about athletics and travel letters. Those are staff focused, right? So when we really think about these different tools and how we allow them to leverage like the data and the insights here, I think it's going to be incredibly powerful. The very last thing I want to share, because I know we just had a couple minutes here, Devin, can you go to the analytics tab for me? Go down, 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 stop. Yeah, right there. So we actually have here, really want to call out let's call it the intervention effectiveness. So Devin, do you mind clicking into this? So one of the things, right, that, we talk so much about Navigate is like the scale, the efficiency here, but we also need to be able to ensure that the time that you are spending within Navigate 360, you can actually be able to see, is this work paying off, right? And so one of the things that we really talk about here, and I know you actually do a lot of work with Jason specifically around this. Yep, there we go, Jason. Is this is known as intervention effectiveness. This really allows you to gauge different types of outreaches, populations of students compared to one another, who maybe students who maybe attended an appointment campaign versus students who didn't attend an appointment campaign, right? Like what were those different outcomes here? Students with multiple alerts versus students who didn't, right? So really thinking about these analytics tools also to help tell the story of how are your interventions and how should this even help drive kind of how you want to think about leveraging Navigate 360, right? So this analytics feature here, I just wanted to tease this, right? But really think about those population comparisons here. And then Devin, if you go back just into the analytics tab too, there's also the population health analytics as well. So what this is going to give you here is this is all SIS data, right? So we are going to be ingesting your information though, but allowing you to really visually see it and break down by key populations, right? So really thinking about like looking at students with certain thresholds here, or looking at students who might need those additional nudges, those additional pieces of support here. So I think when we think about specifically the ways that we're going to scale our work, and I think about it through automations, through reporting, through some of the built-in AI functionality here, what we're really hoping to do is be able to allow you to see how this tool can really allow you to scale your work around your campus, but also spend more time with those students who you want to spend time with. Danny, I see you put your hand up here, so I don't know if this is a question for me, but I'm happy to, ask the question. We'll see if I want to direct it back to Jason or Devin.
Sure, thanks, Ben. I was going to try to give a very tangible current example. We're nearing the end of a term. We're in that space where we're starting to chase why is Ben not registered yet? And in our current systems for advising reporting, advisors may know, they may even put a note, but there's not an easy way to do it. And I thought maybe this would give you an opportunity to talk about how we could easily pull reports, maybe by having a service type or something that indicates a student is not returning that would let us pull all of the advising notes for a student who has indicated they intend not to return.
Yeah, absolutely. You'd be able to leverage, Danny, information from appointment summary reports. You could even ask a specific question in an appointment and then document it to set up with automation. You've then got that enrollment campaign, which you can leverage here. So that allows you to really identify those students who yet haven't taken an action on it. And one of the things that you'll work with Jason on through like the strategy piece and then also Devin through implementation is that, right? So many of these tools, like Danny, you're kind of talking about, while these are really great proactive tools, a lot of our institutions already use them when it's a little too late, right? So, we want to start thinking about, do we actually send out the enrollment census campaign 2 weeks earlier, right? Or is there a population of students that we know we historically don't retain? How can Navigate help us kind of target that a little bit more specifically? So, Danny, I think your use case is spot on, and definitely one that we can work with kind of the implementation team on to make sure that we're running at when we go live.
Yeah, and Danny, I would also, it's funny, you ask a question like that, and if you have four people from EAB, they're probably going to have four different ideas of how you can do it. So I agree with everything Ben said. The first thing that came to my mind also was you could use post-appointment feedback, where you're actually able to send, in essence, a survey to a student at the end of a appointment so that you could ask those questions that they may not answer in person. Not I don't know that I ever had a student in my advising meetings that told me, yeah, I'm not coming back next year. But they may put that in a survey if you ask, something just kind of off the top of my head, how confident are you in returning for the spring term? You can get feedback from there and then report on that, set up automations, whatever you would want to do with that information. So I think there's lots of different ways that we can get at what you're needing there.
Well, wonderful. These are all great questions, and I am really glad that we got to dig deeper into them. We will absolutely talk more in depth about all of these pieces in our future configuration conversations, as well as just getting a better understanding of the best ways to strategically utilize the Navigate platform. If at any time you think of more questions for folks who won't be, sticking too deeply into this implementation process, but you want to ask some more questions, feel free to reach out to us. Michael, feel free to share out my email as well as, sending this recording to everybody. Our team is happy to help and give some more use cases for the different tools in the platform. We hope to see you further when we get deeper into getting folks into the platform and getting everybody trained. Like I said, thank you so much for your time today. I'll share out the recording and we will continue to connect throughout the rest of the implementation process.
Awesome. Thanks, Devin, and to Jason and to Ben for doing this and answering our questions and showing us this. We had a lot of very interested people on board today, and I know that they're appreciative of this, especially on a holiday week. So we appreciate you jumping in and doing this.
Of course. Well, everyone enjoy your holiday. I hope you have a very delicious dinner, and try to stay warm.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.